And I was even told to seek medical help during the defended hearing, and I said to the prosecutor, James Gallagher, "You first, mate." And yet, no one expects me to get any sort of justice whatsoever because the system's rigged.
Well, I think you're finding out what the true society is today, and reform of justice system is quite crucial.
Well,
with that
is just a...
internet is certainly a good way of voicing it.
And then I get given threatening letters from inside courtrooms forcing me to sign acknowledgements. It was the whole thing was a private administrative hearing in a public courtroom. How dare they?
That's how a Lord Shore Court operates.
Well, pardon me? It's a...
That is an accepted practice now. It's in a small room and the registrar or referee...
Yeah, but the guy's just acting as a banker on the top of there. He's not being a judge. I was told judge alone trial. It says it in writing, judge alone trial, but he's a justice of the peace.
Come down to, you see, and the way we can do it is through the Law Commission and through the Law Society. I can certainly voice this in that way.
Sure.
Change to the justice system and the prosecution, and you'll see that it's the media. I mean, fighting that, you could consider either going to the media.
Good morning. My name's Mark. Who am I speaking with?
Tony.
Tony. I've got a couple of queries if I could hit you with. A couple of days ago now I was at a defended hearing on the North Shore.
Oh, is it a legal matter?
Yeah.
I'll have to put you through to a lawyer.
That's fantastic, thank you.
Accounts here.
Sorry.
A moment, please.
Cheers. Hi, was that... Hi. My name's Mark. I was speaking to Mark at the, at Waimaku Barristers. Mark Harrison gave me your number to ask you a question or two. Are you free to have a couple of questions?
Yes, but yeah, go ahead.
A couple of days ago at North Shore District Court, I was there for a defended hearing in regards to a couple of matters. I was given a piece of paper by the court registrar during court entitled Acknowledgement by Mark Donald Eric Keane, my person's name, and it's got about 6 points of interest and then dated on the 19th of May. I was told to sign it or be held in contempt and forced to sign it. I was also forced to relinquish my property under threat of arrest. There's no signature or name. The Justice of the Peace that was giving all of these supposed orders would not identify himself. I asked him multiple times on the record, he wouldn't tell me who he was. I want to get some sort of redress. I've been trespassed upon, my rights have been stood all over, and I feel like I've signed it without prejudice and under duress and protest at the time. Otherwise, I was going to get arrested. And this was over a traffic offence.
What sort of traffic offence are you looking at?
Well, at the time it was a failure to produce driver's licence and a 75 kilometre and a 50k area, which I was contesting. And the person was found guilty, or my person was found guilty, of both charges. However, the charges they ended up with a less fine than what I started with, including the court costs. So I suppose you could call it a win. However, before that case was even heard, this man who was acting as a justice of the peace at the bench there gave me all sorts of orders. Now, he was giving me orders, and yet part of my argument over that failure to produce a driver's licence is that the constable never gave me a lawful order to produce anything.
It is registrar's court?
Sorry?
Was it a registrar's court?
It was courtroom 4 at the North Shore District Court.
Or was there a judge?
Sorry?
Was there a judge or courtroom 4?
Yeah, there were 2 justices of the peace presiding.
2 justices of peace?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And they wouldn't identify themselves. I asked them on the record. I told them it was my wish for them to identify themselves, and they said no. And then they just said they were going to give me all of these orders, and then I said I wasn't going to accept. I mean, I was happy at the time, you know, this failure to produce licence with the officer on that day. I said to him I was happy to produce anything he ordered me to do, and he said, I'm not ordering you to do anything. So I didn't have to produce anything. So how do I seek redress? Because at the same time on that day, the police officer drove off and ran over my foot, causing myself injury, over a speeding ticket. I don't think he was acting within the confines of his office, causing myself injury and then fleeing the scene of vehicular assault.
Okay, are you funding this by yourself, all these things?
I'm doing this all by myself.
Okay. I think you'd be best served to contact Citizens Advice Bureau.
Done that.
You've done that?
Yep.
Whereabouts?
And I went to the Henderson Citizens Advice Bureau. I spoke to a David Dura there. He suggested that I had the officer sworn on the stand when he gave testimony, which he did, and then I can prove beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt that he perjured himself in doing so. I have a video recording of the entire incident that happened, which the court failed to be able to even play because of their equipment being antique. They couldn't play an MP4 on a DVD player. And this was a video evidence that I supplied to that court a week prior to having to present it, to make sure there was no problem. I've bent over backwards to make their job easy, and I'm really steamed. I said to the man acting as the Justice of the Peace, where do you derive your authority over myself, a man? He ignored me.
Okay.
I told him I wished to be addressed as Mark. That was the names that were given to me. He said, no. I honestly don't get this. I'm just a simple man. I'm an idiot, legally speaking. I don't understand a bean of legalese, legal terms, legal customs.
So you have been to CAB, and this is a speeding offence you were looking at?
Yes, and it was judged upon 2 days ago. But before that hearing even happened, that Justice of the Peace, or the registrar, his name was Zane in that courtroom that day, he handed me this pre-written acknowledgement by Mark Donald Eric Keane, which is my person's name. They had pre-written this and forced me to sign it before proceedings.
Did you not have a duty solicitor there to assist you? Did you not ask for a duty solicitor?
I asked multiple duty solicitors. They got up and walked out on me. The duty solicitor failed to explain to me what an offence was when I asked her. She failed to explain everything that all I've ever done is ask questions, trying to comprehend and understand it, because I believe I have the right to fully comprehend and understand what's going on. And no one can explain jack to me. I've got a New Zealand Butterworth's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. I've read all the legal terminology. Doesn't mean that my interpretation of those words mean jack. I want to know what the author's interpretations of any legislative rule of society that's being forced upon my person means. So when they say that I was acting as a person that day, I'm going to ask what type of person, because I know I'm a man. and I hadn't created any joinder inequity between myself and any person, be it natural, legal, body corporate, unincorporated body, corporation sole. Take your pick.
Do you work or study?
Pardon?
Are you working or studying?
I'm just a man living on earth. But I've studied all sorts of societal structures for about 4 years now. I've got Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, the abridged version as well. I've got 8 dictionaries, so when someone wants to use a word to try and gain some sort of force and effect over myself, a man, I'm going to ask them what that word means. And if they can't explain to me and articulate correctly what that word is interpreted as,
I see where you're coming from.
you do see where I'm... Great, awesome, thank you for understanding.
Okay.
So why am I not getting any justice in this supposed society called New Zealand through my person? My person has been trespassed upon. I have physically been injured by a policeman,
Okay.
and I want to seek redress.
Okay. I think your options are you can go to the police commissioner.
And he has not responded. I've written a letter to the police commissioner asking for an explanation for his subordinate's actions on that day. I have supplied him a complete video recording of the interaction that day. They have ignored it. I have filed an IPCA complaint against Constable Neil Winterbottom for his injuries, alarm, distress and trespass that he committed upon myself in person.
Well,
Nothing.
I think you will be, yeah. It's an unfortunate thing, but you keep persevering with the police commissioner, and also it's an unfortunate thing because they all stick up for themselves.
Of course they do. It's a legal gang. And I've got absolutely no redress.
I think you should write to the court and get that. You have a right to know the referee's details.
I have damn straight, so why would he, when I was standing in that stand giving sworn testimony, and I was pointing to the officer and saying, that man, he stopped me and said, no, that's an officer.
Okay. You've been to CAB. Now, if you want us to assist Mark, we do actually have to charge our clients.
Sure. Legal advice services, I've spoken to, what's his name? Someone, Metcalf. He was the manager of the grants officers of the legal aid services. He was unable to explain to me what the words meant on the application form when I asked him simple questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, you're not a client of ours. You're a new client, and unfortunately...
Well, I'm a man. Let's get that straight. Just like yourself as a woman.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you're not an existing client of the firm, so...
Correct.
Yeah, we can't actually give you advice over the phone, but we can give you, like you've been to CAB. If you have been to Henderson one, you can try another one.
I mean, I made I made an affidavit or statement of facts. I went to a justice of the peace and got it signed and sworn in. Then I went to the North Shore District Court and got duplicate copies, made all true and correct and stamped by the North Shore District Court. I presented that on the day and it was ignored. That was my affidavit to rebut Neil Winterbottom's unsworn affidavit. So, you know, what I even presented to the court trumped his pack of lies that he had written in a pretty story. Because he wouldn't put his name under it.
Yeah, okay.
What
you can check on the internet.
I've done that. I've spent 4 years on the internet learning everything I need to learn. But unfortunately, nobody else has got the comprehension unless you're legally trained and then a member of a bar association first and foremost.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, does not a lawyer's obligation lie with the bar first and foremost and to the client secondary? Nothing?
Sorry?
Does any legal professional that's legally trained and a member of a bar association, are they not obliged first and foremost by their oath to the bar association ahead of the client?
Well, do you have a lawyer acting for you, a barrister?
I'm a man acting as myself. I'm my own attorney, in fact, or at law, or whatever you want to call it.
You're acting for yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm a man, and I can represent as that person, or whatever character they want me to, provided they pay me for my time.
And nobody's going to pay you for time. No?
Well, I gave New Zealand Police my fee schedule for appearing in court 3 months prior to even being there.
Okay. I think you can try a CAB, another CAB. Unfortunately, Mark, I can't assist.
Okay.
I see you have got issues.
Oh, I've got issues, and I was even told to seek medical help during the defendant hearing. And I said to the prosecutor, James Gallagher, "You first, mate." I couldn't even understand the language he was speaking. You know, it was the whole thing was a private administrative hearing in a public courtroom. How dare they?
That's how Lord Shore Court operates.
Pardon me? It's a...
That is an accepted practice now. It's in a small room, and the registrar or referee...
Yeah, but the guy's just acting as a banker on the top of there. He's not being a judge. I was told judge alone trial. It says it in writing, judge alone trial, but he's a justice of the peace.
Come down to, you see, and the way we can do it is through the Law Commission and through the Law Society. I can certainly voice this in that way.
Sure.
Change to the justice system and the prosecution, and you'll see that it's the media. I mean, fighting that, you could consider either going to the media or...
That's why I post everything on YouTube. I mean, to me, I've kept a videographical record from day one of this entire thing. I've recorded every interaction with every public official because it's my right to do so. And I've posted it all up on YouTube for public scrutiny because that's what my justice. And I've had hundreds of people worldwide agreeing that what that man did to me was wrong that day. And yet, no one expects me to get any sort of justice whatsoever because the system's rigged.
Well, I think you're finding out what the true society is today, and reform of justice system is quite crucial.
Well,
with that
is just a...
Internet is certainly a good way of voicing it.
And then I get given threatening letters from inside courtrooms forcing me to sign acknowledgements. I mean, I'll read you this acknowledgement. It says, "I made an audio and video recording in North Shore District Court on the 17th of March without knowledge or permission of the presiding judicial officers. I was unaware I needed permission to do what I wanted to do."
I think you should take it up with the Minister for Justice.
Who's that?
Well, it's not Judith Collins at the moment.
No, well, yeah. How corrupt was she, eh?
Yeah.
And, you know, my local Minister of Parliament, I live in Waimaku, so guess who my local Minister of Parliament is?
The Minister of Parliament is John Key.
Exactly. And the only time I got anywhere near John Key to ask him a question, I was assaulted by a Secret Service officer.
Well, then you can actually contact Labour Party if you're looking at...
Oh, you reckon go get the other bully side, the other side of the fence into it.
Okay, Corey.
I like you. You're an onto it girl.
Yep, Corey Haddock is the area for Labour here.
Colin who?
It's actually, yeah.
Colin who?
Corey Haddock. C-O-R-I-E.
So, okay.
Yeah, you need to get into Labour Party. If you're not happy with this, I mean, you need to get together with Labour Party to be able to...
Well, I mean, I don't vote. I mean, honestly, I sent a letter to the Registrar of Electors a few years back when I got this registration to elect, you know, to be a voter. And I asked them to please show me where myself, a man, are obliged in any way, shape or form to register my person as an electoral voter within this society called New Zealand. And they didn't respond, funnily enough. Because there's no obligation whatsoever for me, a man, to do whatever the hell I want. Because I believe, paramount and mandatory is that we're all equal. Are we not? But then that's before the law. Once the law gets into it, we're not equal anymore.
You can organise a meeting with Corey. Send a text to him. Corey mobile is 021.
Yep.
582.
582.
655.
655.
Yeah. And just mention the referred you because it doesn't actually concern in practice of this. It's just going to be done at the ministerial level.
Yeah, because I mean, I can't believe they gave me this written piece of paper that was pre-written, supposedly by me, and I'm supposed to acknowledge all of this stuff and then get forced. And when I blatantly said, "Who are you?" to the JP, he said, it doesn't matter. He wouldn't identify himself. He wouldn't. I said, "Will you please put your name and sign this, please?" He said, "No." So where's the reverse liability of this document that he's threatening me arrest over in contempt of court? Contempt of what court? He's in contempt of my court. It's ridiculous, man.
It's the only way we can actually get this.
Yeah.
It's got to be at the government.
Judicial review. I mean, I spoke to Willie and that on Radio Live once when that man was on talking about judicial reviews and victimless crimes and stuff, and they just, you know, the media, they just scrubbed me off the line because I started making sense. You know, so it's good. Again, it's just controlled.
Okay.
All right, Nisa, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
But since then, I think you should be able to give you some indication, or through Labour Party, I mean the opposition, because that's the only way you can get some action. That's the only way we're getting action.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to rock on up to John Key's electoral office with my camera rolling and ask them what they think.
On his property, you know that.
Sorry?
He'll be trespassed. I think the way, as I've learned, is to go through an opposition party and let them do the work. And
Use their rules against them.
yeah, I mean, if the justice system needs a reform, you need to voice your opinion for actually having a reform. People's right.
Well, I mean, to me, I'm not talking about someone else's case. I'm talking about what's actually happened to me, and I'm happy to stand in any open court of record and verify anything I'm saying. And if
it's happening to you, it'll be happening to a whole lot of others as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, for the last, since 13th of October 2013, I've been recording every speed camera I've seen locally. I've recorded 49 speed cameras. Only two actual vehicles, but I've recorded them 49 times in the last year and a half. And every time you see a speed camera, it's a minimum of $20,000. So that's $1 million they've extracted in just revenue. It's disgusting. They're robbing us blind.
Yeah, that's right.
But honestly, I've got to say that the initial fine was a $55 fine and $170 for the speeding. The JP actually lowered it to 55 plus costs of 30 and $100 plus costs. So I walked away after arguing for 3.5 hours in that courtroom, having to pay $10 less. So I consider it a win. Perhaps the JP was entertained.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
In the infringement.
Yeah, this is just over an infringement, which they couldn't explain what that was. I said, did I do something wrong? Have I caused someone harm or injury?
Yeah, it's an infringement offence.
Yeah, but again, offence. I don't understand legalese, so they need to explain to me in English what an offence is, don't they?
Prosecution would have been there, so you appeared before the Justice of Peace.
Yeah.
It was an infringement offence, yeah.
Yeah, for two of them, for the failure to produce.
I've got something else to attend to, Mark.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Awesome. And take note, I did say I record everything.